For session 11 of the Guildford Junior Chess Club, I wanted to choose something topical. And what could be more relevant to a group of improving young kids than the current World Championship match? We've had a couple of really complicated games in that match, and I wanted to highlight one which I found particularly interesting, the Catalan of Game 2. But in order to understand the Carlsen-Nepomniachtchi game, we have to go back in time to look at previous examples. And I pulled out one particularly interesting example from 2020, the Aeroflot Open played in Moscow, between Emilio Cordova, Grandmaster, playing white, and Alexander Ryazantsev, playing black. And I guess this game is not only relevant to kids, I mean, it's really relevant to very strong players as well. So the opening, we're going to get a Catalan on the board. Very, very similar to, if not identical to, Carlsen versus Nepomniachtchi, where black takes on c4, white goes queen c2, and now here we have this complicating move, b5. Very sharp, not completely new, but re-evaluated in the light of perhaps computer analysis or profound home analysis. Obviously, this is very sharp because black's opening up the long diagonal. And, of course, it's much sharper than the old traditional main line, a6. So b5. Now, Carlsen-Nepomniachtchi continued knight e5. In order to understand that move, we've got to take a look at a4, which is what happened in Cordova versus Ryazantsev. And this is obviously a major challenge to black's opening setup. And the correct answer to that move, I think, is b4. Giving back the pawn on c4 straight away in order to speed up development. It is interesting to see what happens if black plays c6 here, which is similar to the World Championship game, but there's no way that that Nepomniachtchi would have played this move had Magnus played a4. Then white takes on b5, black takes back, and now this stunning move, knight g5. And black normally blocks the long diagonal with knight d5, but of course he can't do that here because queen takes h7 would be mate. So black has got to place his trust in some sort of speculative move like h6, whereupon white could take on a8. He might even take on f7 first if he's greedy. And I'm not sure black has full compensation here for the exchange. At any rate, I'm pretty sure Magnus would have been happy with that one. But he probably didn't play a4, going back to the game, because of this pesky move b4. And this is the move that's holding black's position up, I think, in the present day. Well, white's got a number of moves here, but in the actual game Cordova Ryazantsev, white played knight fd2, forcing black's hand, really. The long diagonal is too exposed. Black's got to block it, and now white takes back the pawn on c4. And I guess white's looking forward to just a straightforward development plan here, something like b3, bishop b2, eventually coming to the move e4. So black's got to interrupt that plan, and I asked the kids to guess the next move for black. They found it quite difficult. I think if you're not used to these Catalan positions, or Queen's Gambit decline positions, if you like, then the move c5 is quite difficult to find. Because it looks as though it's loosening black's position. But Ryazantsev understands that he has to play such moves, because he's got a traffic jam of pieces on the queen side, which he's got to release, even if it means temporarily sacrificing a pawn. And so we come to this interesting position. Well, rook d1 was played. Looks logical. Black played knight d7, and now just b3. A recognition that white can't really stop black from regaining the pawn. But we note over the last few moves how efficiently black has liberated his queenside pieces. And the same really can't be said for white's queenside. White's still lagging in development there. And whilst he catches up, black is getting his pieces into very aggressive positions. Now, the next question I asked the kids was, why isn't that last move by black a blunder? Why can't white play e4? And again, this was a question I actually found quite difficult to answer. A few found knight takes b3, but they didn't really believe it. They didn't carry on with the variation long enough to justify this move. But I think it is a very good move, and it's almost certainly what Ryazantsev would have done. Just highlights the fact that c4 knight's hanging, and if queen f3 here, hoping to land some sort of cheapo, then we've got the excellent bishop f6. Very good move. Unprotected bishop on b2. White's got to chop it off. Then we take with the queen. Unprotected rook on a1. White's really suffering from the lack of development on the queen side. And when white takes the queen off, now we take back with the knight. And we emerge with an extra pawn and a definitely winning position. So going back to the game, that helps to explain knight bd2. Black plays bishop f6. White went knight e4. And black took on b2. Well, white's got some problems here, clearly. And the c3 square is pretty weak. White's queen side looks a bit tender. Knight takes b3 could be in the offing. So Cordova sacrificed with knight takes c5. But already this is a rather desperate move, because after bishop takes a1, knight takes a6. That knight on a6 is stranded on the edge of the board. And, well, he's probably hoping to take on b4 sooner rather than later. But queen f6 just exposes the defects in white's position. Protecting the bishop, just getting out of the pin on the d file. And now came a5, which is a really curious looking move. It looks like white's fiddling while Rome burns. But the fact is, black's probably threatening just knight b6 here. And that would again expose white's weakness on the c file. So a5, but of course that is a move which implicates a loss of time. Black brings his bishop back into the centre, and white went e4. Well, this is heading already towards white's doom. What else could he do? I mean, he could try and go passive with rook f1, but then I think just queen e7, and that knight on a6 is looking very lonely indeed. I'm not surprised white didn't go in for this, but after e4, going back to the game, again, I asked the kids what should black do here. They were finding it difficult to find these complicated tactics. Ryazantsev played the splendid move rook takes c4. I mean, that's just really nice. If white takes with the queen, then black can take on f2. King goes into the corner. And now, well, I think knight e3 does the business. So, to cut a long story short, white's got to take back with the pawn. Now we have another beautiful move here, an energetic move, b3. Again, decoying the queen away from f2, but white can stay on the pawn. But then comes the knight to c3. That's been threatened for some time, and the occupation of that square just finishes white off. Well, black's got a number of excellent continuations. That knight on a6 is looking very lonely. In the game, black played e5 to try and maybe round that knight up. What else could he do? Maybe rook d8 was pretty good too. And if king h1, queen e7, again, this is crushing for black. But e5 was pretty good too. White tried knight c5. Just pretty hopeless. He's hoping that black will take it, whereupon the knight on c3 is captured. But b2 is just crushing. And I guess white could have resigned at this point. If he had gone knight d7, we can go queen d6. He takes on f8, but then we just queen. And after takes. The problem is the knight on f8. The knight's been bad for quite some time. Now it finds itself completely stranded. And black can just bring his own knight back into play, capturing the white knight on the next turn. The continuation of the game was nice. Queen takes b2, and now this excellent move, knight a4. Discovered attack and a double attack on the knight at c5. That move need not be played, but it was. Knight takes a4, and white simultaneously resigned or either lost on time. So that type of game is showing that actually black's prospects, if we go back to the opening after b5, are currently quite good, which of course helps to explain why Nepomniachtchi played this move at the highest level against the strongest player of all time. And it clearly is something that Catalan players are going to have to take a very close look at if they haven't done so already.